Church of Thomas. My name is Angel Eliza, and in a lot of internet searches I'm found under Angel Eliza 41. The 41 I adopted because it seemed like a good number at the time, and since then I've sort of grown into it. I realized that I was probably encouraged to use it by the big guy, and I now think of it as for the one, as in the one with no name, the God of Abraham. I have traveled all over the place. I've been in quite a few countries and almost every state. I have visited with people from many different backgrounds and have had friends from many of those backgrounds. I've enjoyed meeting people that were very different from me and those that reaffirmed the standards and beliefs that I have had most of my life. I have modified some of my beliefs as I have gone on, but the core beliefs have always been the same, and they were the ones that were taught to me by my parents. When I was growing up, I had friends from a lot of different religious backgrounds. One of the things that my parents always did is encourage me to go to their places of worship if I was invited, and see how they did things. We did things quite differently at home, so I think that they wanted me to see a broad cross-section of different Christian, Jewish, and other belief systems so that I could make up my own mind where I best belonged. I think deep in their hearts they probably hoped, in their heart of hearts, that I would decide to come back and be a part of the Church of Thomas when I had done my wandering. My itchy feet basically covered not just real estate, but spiritual matters. I studied in many different places with individuals from a lot of different backgrounds. And that's one of the reasons that my sermons draw on a lot of the experiences that I had during these times to draw similarities, because in all of the major religions of the world there are basic concepts. The idea that you shouldn't go around killing each other, you shouldn't go stealing things, you should be faithful to your community and your family. But there are some basic differences between the singular God of Christianity, Judaism, and Muslim beliefs that is unique. One of the things that is different is it's the first time in history that there was a single deity that was in charge of everything. And the Church of Thomas does not believe in a Trinity. A Trinity is basically a backsliding as far as we're concerned. The idea that God could be divided into three separate aspects is very much a pantheistic point of view. And it made it easier to sell to the Greeks and Romans that Paul was ministering to, but it did not in any way reflect the teachings of Jesus, who stuck with the tradition of the God of Abraham, who was singular. When my parents allowed me to go to all these other places of worship, I was told to be respectful and to be open-minded, because you never know when you're going to find some interesting ideas. What I found was that most of the things that I considered moral and ethical behavior are represented in all of the religions. I just happen to think that Christianity is the best of them. I understand why the Islamic people formed their belief that the Jews and the Christians of biblical times were backsliding in forming a pantheon and to make it a hierarchical type thing again. But unfortunately, even though they do adopt adopt Jesus as one of the prophets. They do not quote him in the Quran, which is a shame. The other thing that seemed to have been left out of Jesus' teachings, which I believe was pivotal to his whole outlook of the world, was the idea of loving each other above yourself. Now, that creates a problem, because when you say that you will not be friends with people of other religions, how are they supposed to ever see the truth of your faith if you never demonstrate it? And one of the ways that you demonstrate it is to be a true friend. So that's how I look at it. Judaism is the roots of our religion, all three, and I honor them for their traditions that they've handed down to us, but I think over time they amassed a great many rules and regulations that were human rules. They had nothing to do with what God said. Many of the people who wrote in the New Testament, the Old Testament, all of the writings from the Judaism backgrounds were inspired. However, many of them were dealing with everyday problems that they were wrestling with and trying to find solutions. And one of the easiest ways, not that they necessarily thought of it in a conscious sense, but one of the easiest ways to promote an idea and have it be adhered to is to say, God needs this to happen. If you are faithful to God, you will do this and this. Now, the ideas they put forth, like not eating pork, was an excellent one. At the time, you were trying to raise a nation. You were trying to feed people that you were hoping to be born to fill out the ranks of your nation. Well, pigs and humans, bless their hearts, they eat exactly what we do. So they were competitors. And even though we were able to eat their flesh, their similarities also made them prone to exactly the diseases we were prone to. And as a result, we're able to pass on diseases to us. And I think that somewhere along the line they observed these things, as all humans do, and decided that it must be God's will that we not eat pork. Well, in modern days, we now know how to produce more food. We also know how to isolate animals that are ill and keep them from the food supply. As a result, pork meat is no longer a threat to human existence. And as a result, it is one of the dietary rules that went by the wayside when Jesus took over. His teachings basically did away with the dietary restrictions, as well as many of the rituals that were done by the Jewish people. Now, this is not to criticize the Jewish people for having followed them. They were following the rules as they had learned them. But one of the things that Jesus did was he pared everything down to their essential elements. Rules became streamlined again. And instead of all these human rules that may have been good regulations for a secular community, were stripped away from what God wanted. What God wanted was that people care for each other. And Jesus exemplified that by caring for his people in a way that could be emulated later. And it's a shame, but many people who were in the Christian, Jewish, and Islamic communities do not follow those aspects anymore. And I would like to see a resurgence of this fundamentalist idea of getting back to what Jesus said in the first place, not our hopes and dreams of what he wanted to say, maybe according to our backgrounds. There were many things that we have interpreted in the Bible, in other Gospels,